Welcome back. We still have with us Viren Shetty, who's the Executive Director and Group COO of Narayana Health, and Dr. Ballal of Manipal Hospitals joining in to discuss the hospital space in India and the kind of M&A we've seen recently. Viren, one of the trends which has also stood out within the hospital space is the interest from PEs within hospitals. We've seen deals such as Manipal Temasek, TPG Care, KKR Max, just to name a few, even the likes of HCG, CVC Capital. What happens when a PE firm buys into a hospital company? Because eventually they do want to exit with higher returns. So how does that affect the operations? Are we going to see more deals coming in from the PE front when it comes to hospitals?
PE funds chase yield more than anything else. They invest in sectors where they see some inefficiencies and underperformance, and they're able to increase the yield of the assets that they acquire, not just in healthcare, in most industries across the world. And the Indian private healthcare industry does owe a great deal of gratitude to a lot of the PE funds who first put us on this journey of become professionalized institutions, because I'll just speak from our own experience. Prior to us bringing in professional investors, we didn't even have a proper accounting system. We had no idea of how much material was coming back and forth. We had no idea of how to generate bills on time, how to collect them. And so that discipline of being financially rigorous is something that PE funds bring to every hospital that they acquire, and that is of tremendous value. Of course, beyond the point, you're looking at a sense of maybe diminishing returns, which case if you are buying in to a healthcare group at a very high valuation and you're looking to 2x, 3x, or 10x that investment, it would mean that you would have to be a little more aggressive in the way in which you run your operations. And that is fine to an extent, because a lot of aggression does come from how you expand, how you grow, how you add beds, and are able to project a view of the future that could square with the reality of a market like India, which is growing very quickly. So I would say that it affects the operations in that it does cause hospitals to be more cost efficient, to be able to offer more services to charge, and to be more aggressive in their growth.
Dr. Ballal, of course, on one hand, when PE investors get into a certain type of investment, they're looking at, tightening the ship or cost effectiveness, etc. But the other thing is structural growth drivers, right? And Ekta was pointing out a couple of growth drivers that the space is seeing, whether it's higher insurance penetration, pickup in medical tourism, which was missing for a very long time. But you tell us, going forward over the next couple of years, what do you see as the main growth driver for the hospital's business?
I do agree with you. I think private equity has contributed a lot to growth of the healthcare sector. We have particularly been with the private equity for quite some time. And as Viren mentioned, I think there is certainly a much better management, a tighter control of what's happening, and a more closer look of how the hospital is administered and how it grows. Everyone looks for return on the investment. So I think these are all needed for us to grow. The future, as I see, is one, certainly I think we'll have more healthcare awareness, hopefully more insurance penetration of bringing in more patients who require healthcare, and certainly more of medical value tourism. And hopefully at some point, there will be a percolation down of significant healthcare institutions to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is bound to happen. Just like how it has happened with specialists, once a city like Bangalore is sort of saturated, we see a lot of specialists, nephrologists, cardiologists, so on and so forth, moving into other towns where there is growth. So I think this will be the pattern for the future. But I am quite optimistic that healthcare is here to grow, and it will grow significantly in the next few years. And it needs to grow in a large country like ours. And soon, hopefully, we'll be the healthcare givers for the world, like what the Western world was in the past.
Point well taken, Dr. Ballal. Viren, I just wanted to probe a little further on this. While healthcare needs to grow, are there any trends that you're seeing? A certain kind of hospital is seeing a faster growth, or is there a latent need for something which you believe can be a growth driver in the future? I mean, we are all talking about specialty hospitals, we're all talking about general care hospitals, but anything specific that you see as maximum growth potential?
See, there is a demand for healthcare that will continue unabated. But the problem that happens is that there are vast segments of the population that are simply not able to afford the sort of treatments that are being offered. And so when we look at our expansion, there is a need for tier 1 cities, There is a different sort of hospital that you create for tier 2, tier 3, and even in the tier 1 cities, there are different payer groups that you're going after. More than growth of people who have insurance or people who are flying in from abroad to get very high-end treatment done here, the greatest need is for the middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor farmers of this country, for whom there still needs to be a lot more cost rationalization. There still needs to be a lot more efficiencies brought in from the private sector to be able to service that. So we see that as some of the growth drivers for our group, which we call and has been termed as the missing middle. And so they need insurance, they need healthcare, they need primary care, they need preventative care, they need lab tests, all at a price that is much lower than what is being provided, even in our group today. And so a lot of the effort that we're putting in is towards servicing that need. Now, it does not necessarily mean that we need to add more beds to achieve that we need to add too much more expensive infrastructure to achieve that. There is a lot of soft efforts that we need to do on our processes, on the way in which we discharge patients, process them, and the amount of throughput we can put in, that can help reduce our cost even further and take care of those patients. So we see a lot of growth coming from India.
I'm just going to interrupt and ask you, what's your plan when it comes to M&A? Are you looking to be acquired? Are you looking to acquire? Because Narayana has been relatively, I'm saying relatively, quiet as compared to the peers when it comes to M&A.
Yeah. See, all of this costs money. And who pays for it at the end of the day? It's not Temasek or KKR. They're just lending money to the hospital group to do its expansion and so on. In the end, these costs are borne by the patient. And unless the things that we spend money on improve the healthcare outcomes for them, reduce the cost, allow us to do more with less, it doesn't make sense for us to spend huge amounts of money towards M&A. Now, it's not that we don't do M&A, we do. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot more gradual. But the things that we are pursuing are the cost reduction that is desperately required in this sector.
Okay, cost reduction is the need of the hour in this sector. Got that. Viren and Dr. Ballal, pleasure speaking with you to understand what's happening in the business and what the way forward could look like. Appreciate your thoughts on CNBC TV18. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Very much.
Thank you.
That's all we have in this edition of Medicine Box. Thanks for watching.